Let me invite you on a journey through history, from British Raj to post liberalization India, to understand how industrial relationships evolved over time. Don't worry, we won't need any tickets or passports. We'll just be doing that in this video. Okay. Anyways, Chalile. Oh, I will try my best to make it more interesting than the history classes that we used to have at school, but no promises. Before we do that, let us recap what industrial relations is. We looked at industrial relations in depth in first unit. The basic things like the definition, the needs, all those things. Let us have a quick recap, right? What is industrial relations? At its core, IR or industrial relation is all about the relationship between the workers and the employers. And then there is one more person, that is the government, right? Just like any relationship, this IR also, this industrial relationship also has gone through ups and downs, conflicts, negotiations, adjustments, and sometimes even strikes. Now, to understand this relationship fully, we have to look back in time. But before we go any further, I request you to please check if you have already subscribed to Anu's Classroom. If you have not done that already, consider subscribing and also consider turning on your notifications for this channel so that you will not miss any videos that I post. Anyways, coming back, in the pre-independence era, what happened? Let us start from the pre-independence era. Okay, so here at that time during the pre-independence era, the situation of workers were quite grim. British industrial policies were designed to serve their own economic interest. Correct. We all know that. It was they did not want to uplift India in any way, right? They wanted things to go to their empire. They wanted to feed their empire. So factories began to pop up, especially in places like Bombay and Jamshedpur, thanks to the textile boom and the companies like Tata Iron and Steel and all. The factory system meant that we had long working hours, we had poor wages, and very little job security. It was like working 12 hours straight without any kind of breaks, fans, or salary slips. Nightmarish, right? But then what happened? So it was during that time only, this factory setting up, they wanted more people to do their clerical jobs. And that is when the education also, schools also started coming up. Schools were, schools, railways, during the British Raj, all these things came up to support their interests only. So then what happened? Slowly, slowly, workers began to organize and trade unions started coming up. So the first baby steps of trade unionism began during this pre-independence era. In 1976, Dinshaw Acha formed the Indian Association. Then in 1920, the All India Trade Union Congress, AITUC, was born. That is India's first national level trade union body. And with this, workers began to raise their voices. And in response, the British introduced some laws like Factories Act, Industrial Employment, Standing Orders Act, all those things. These were small steps towards regulating conditions. But the thing was, their enforcement was weak. Kind of, our New Year resolutions. Enforcement was weak. How many of your New Year resolutions have been completed? Let me know. Now, the two world wars that happened during the pre-independence era, that also played a very big role. World War One created labor shortages in Europe, which meant better wages for Indian workers over there. But employers were not too happy and started using machines to cut cost. At that same time, the Russian Revolution and the formation of International Labour Organization ILO in 1919. It stirred up ideas about workers' rights. During World War II, industrialization sped up in India so as to support the British war effort. So employment increased here. But more workers also meant more voices demanding better conditions. That led to stronger trade unions. and more organized industrial relations. Coming to the post independence era, after 1947, the post independence India focused on planned industrial development. The government wanted self reliance, employment, and social justice. So, Atmanirbhar Bharat was never a new idea. We always have wanted that. So, what they did at that time, they rolled out a bunch of labor laws and institutions. The Industrial Dispute Act of 1947, it helped manage conflict between workers and management. Industrial tribunals were set up to solve disputes. Employee state insurance, ESI, came in to provide social security. So, if a worker broke a leg, they did not have to break their savings also. So, this post independence era, it saw the beginning of the tripartite bodies with government, employers, and workers all sitting together to discuss key labor issues. It was like a big round table with a lot of debates aiming to ensure fairness for all. Now, let us talk about the 5 year plans which shaped India's industrial and employment policies. Let us talk about the 5 year plans during the during the pre liberalization era. When was liberalization? 1991, while Manmohan Singh was the finance minister. LPG, remember, liberalization, privatization, globalization. So before that and after that. So we will look at the 5 year plans, uh, pre-liberalization and post-liberalization. First, let us look at the pre-liberalization era. So these plans focused on welfare as well as industrial growth. The first 5 year plan happened in 1951 to 56. This was when the first 5 year plan was enforced. It focused on agriculture and infrastructure, but it had also laid the groundwork for labor laws, minimum wages, and improving working conditions. Then from 56 to 61 was the second 5 year plan. This went a step ahead and introduced the idea of workers participating in management, right? Workers having a say in company decisions. Then came the third and the fourth. Then came the third, fourth, and fifth fifth 5 year plans. Each dealt with challenges like poverty, unemployment, and even economic slowdowns also. Labor welfare always remained a priority. All these 5 year plans, labor welfare was the priority. New laws like Contract Labor Act, Equal Remuneration Act, all these things were introduced to protect the vulnerable workers. And by the time the sixth plan came in, the focus was on employment generation and equitable income distribution. Overall, we can say that these plans viewed laborers as partners in development and not simply just tools of production. Now, coming to the 5 year plans post liberalization, that is, after 1991, we had a very big shift. Why? Because of this LPG liberalization, privatization, globalization, India opened its economy to the global market. So, till then, whatever was made in India were consumed in India. Nothing much came out, and we did not have enough to send out either. So it was like that. We went into a very big financial crunch, and that is when this whole LPG thing was introduced. And then there we opened our doors to the outside world, right? So the first 5 year plans after liberalization focused more on economic growth, global competitiveness, and private sector participation. Labor issues were still there, but now the focus was on flexibility, easy hiring and firing, improved productivity, creating investor friendly environments, all those kind of things. Like for example, the post liberalization 5 year plans, if I have to give you some example, it emphasized on FDI, foreign direct investments, privatization, and technology upgrades. Okay, and there was a growing concern about the unorganized sector at that time because labor laws began to change. They were trying to balance worker protection with business needs. So, naturally, concerns started arising in the unorganized sector. And unorganized sector is where more than 90% of India's working population is still working, still working. Okay. So, at that time also it was like that. Now also it is like that. And in this unorganized sector, workers did not have any kind of job security or social benefits. What happened? The National Commission for Enterprises, NCE, in the unorganized sector, National Commission for Enterprises in the Unorganized Sector, NCEUS, was set up in 2007 to address this gap. And then what happened? During the post liberalization era, with all these things happening, the emphasis always was on sustainable, inclusive growth and tech adoption. So, in summary, the story of industrial relations in India is the story of how workers and employers have learned to coexist, sometimes with love, sometimes with fights, and often with the government playing referee. From the colonial era's exploitation to post independence welfare policies, the and now the era of economic reforms, industrial relations have evolved a lot. But remember, this is not simply history, this is a lesson that helps us understand today's HR policies, labor laws, and workplace dynamics. Okay, so the next time you hear someone talk about grievance redressal or participative management, just remember this is where it all began. Right? This is the past. Without knowing the past, we cannot understand the present or design the future. So I hope this session helped you understand the evolution of industrial relationships. That is all for the important concepts of Unit 2. Let us meet again in another video. Until then, happy learning.